Have you ever been judged as less than you are, erased by a glance that stole your worth? The Los Angeles International Airport pulsed with the restless energy of a summer morning, its glass walls catching the golden California sun like a prism. Travelers dragged suitcases through the terminal, announcements crackled overhead, and the faint scent of jet fuel mingled with the aroma of fresh coffee from a nearby kiosk. At Gate 47, Ava and Zoe Carter, 16-year-old black twin sisters, stood at the check-in counter, their matching navy backpacks slung over their shoulders. Dressed in crisp white blouses and navy skirts, their braided hair adorned with colorful beads that clicked softly as they moved, they radiated youthful confidence. They were headed to a national debate championship in New York, a dream earned through months of late-night prep and fierce determination. But as they handed their boarding passes to the gate agent, the air thickened with tension. The agent, Claire Ramsey, a white woman in her early 40s with a tight, practiced smile, scanned their passes and paused. Her eyes swept over their braids, their rich dark skin, their poised demeanor, and her lips pursed into a thin line of judgment. "There's an issue," she said, her voice clipped, her gaze barely meeting theirs. "Your first-class seats have been reassigned. You'll need to wait for economy." Ava's brow furrowed, her heart quickening, but her voice steady. "We booked those seats months ago. What's the problem?" Claire's smile tightened, a wall of indifference. "It's just policy," she said, already turning to the next passenger, a white man in a tailored suit who was waved through with a nod and a smile. Zoe's hand tightened on her backpack strap, her eyes locking with Ava's in a silent exchange. They'd faced this before, classmates doubting their intelligence, teachers questioning their place in honors classes, subtle glances that tried to shrink them. But this moment felt heavier, a deliberate dismissal rooted in something they couldn't ignore. The gate area hummed with life. Businessmen tapping at laptops, families corralling children, the clatter of rolling luggage, but a quiet tension rippled around the twins, drawing eyes from the crowd. Ava stepped closer to the counter, her posture tall, her voice calm, but unyielding. "Can you explain the policy? We deserve to board with our tickets." Claire's eyes narrowed, her tone sharpening like a blade. "Look, girls, the flight's overbooked. First class is full. You'll get new seats in economy. Be grateful." Her words were a barrier, built to shut them out, each syllable laced with condescension. A woman nearby, juggling a toddler in a bright yellow dress, frowned, whispering to her husband, "That's not fair. They're just kids." A businessman in a gray suit glanced up from his phone, his expression uneasy but silent, his silence a choice. A retired teacher, Mrs. Eleanor Gray, stood a few feet away, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes narrowing at Claire's tone. "Those girls deserve better," she muttered, loud enough to carry. Zoe's heart raced, her mind flashing to their father, Daniel Harris, a tech CEO whose name carried weight across industries. He'd raised them on stories of his own battles, boardrooms where his voice was dismissed, deals where his expertise was questioned, all because of his black skin. "Never let anyone dim your light," he told them, his voice a steady anchor. Zoe squared her shoulders, her voice clear. "We're not moving until you explain why we're being singled out." Claire scoffed, leaning toward a co-worker, muttering, "They think they're special. Probably got those tickets by mistake." The words cut through the gate's hum, sharp and deliberate, like a slap. The woman with the toddler gasped softly, her husband shaking his head. The businessman shifted uncomfortably, his fingers pausing on his phone. Mrs. Gray stepped closer, her voice firm. "You owe them an answer." A young flight attendant, Javier Lopez, hesitated nearby, his navy uniform crisp, his brown eyes flickering with discomfort. "Claire," he said softly, his voice steady but cautious. "Maybe check the system again?" Claire's head snapped toward him, her glare icy. "I've got this, Javier. Stay out of it." Javier's jaw tightened, but he stepped back, his gaze lingering on the twins, a silent apology in his eyes. Ava pulled out her phone, her fingers swift as she texted their father, "Gate 47. They're denying us our seats." "No reason." Zoe kept her eyes on Claire, her voice low but piercing, echoing their father's strength. "We'd like to speak to a supervisor." "Now." Claire's laugh was sharp, a blade meant to wound. "A supervisor? For this? If you're not happy, file a complaint online." She gestured toward the waiting area, dismissing them like debris to be swept away. The woman with the toddler whispered, "This is wrong. Someone needs to do something." The businessman's silence grew heavier, his discomfort palpable but unspoken. Ava's phone buzzed with Daniel's reply, "On it. Stay strong." The twins exchanged a glance, their resolve hardening like steel. They weren't just fighting for seats. They were challenging a system that judged them unworthy based on their youth, their race, their very existence. Ava opened her phone's camera, hitting record, capturing Claire's sneer, the restless gait, and the growing unease of the crowd. It was a small act, but it felt like reclaiming power, a way to hold the truth in their hands. Javier approached again, his voice firmer. "Claire, check the manifest. There's no overbooking." Claire's face flushed, her hands fumbling with the computer. "I said I've got it," she snapped, but her confidence wavered, her fingers betraying a slight tremor. Ava's phone kept rolling, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and defiance. She thought of her father's stories, of navigating corporate America, of proving his worth in rooms that tried to erase him. Zoe's mind drifted to their debate prep, hours spent crafting arguments, learning to stand tall under pressure. This was their stage now, and they wouldn't back down. Daniel Harris was no ordinary parent. As CEO of Horizon Tech, he held sway over multi-million-dollar airline contracts, partnerships that kept carriers like this one afloat. His daughters were his legacy, raised to wield dignity like a shield, to question injustice with the precision of their debate training. From his Silicon Valley office, Daniel made a call, his voice calm but lethal, to the airline's executive board. "My daughters are at gate 47. They're being denied their seats. Fix this, or our contracts are terminated." Back at the gate, Claire's screen flickered, a priority notification popping up. Her eyes widened, her fingers freezing mid-keystroke. The supervisor, Linda Patel, a woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense demeanor, strode toward the counter, her badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. "What's going on here?" she asked, her gaze shifting from Claire to the twins, her brow furrowed with concern. Zoe spoke, her voice clear and unwavering. "We were denied our first-class seats for no reason. We'd like an explanation." Linda's eyes flicked to Claire, then to the screen. "Check the manifest," she said, her tone sharp as steel. Claire stammered, her voice faltering. "It's an error." Linda's jaw tightened as she scanned the system, her face paling. "There's no error. These seats are theirs." The gate hushed, travelers leaning in, their murmurs growing. Mrs. Gray nodded, her voice firm. "About time someone listened to those girls." Javier stepped closer, his expression relieved but tense, his hands clasped behind his back. Ava's phone kept recording, capturing the shift in power, the crack in Claire's facade. Linda turned to Claire, her voice low but cutting. "My office. Now." Claire's face crumpled, her bravado dissolving like sand in a storm. "I didn't know," she whispered, her hands trembling, her eyes darting to the twins. Ava lowered her phone, her gaze steady. "You didn't need to know who we were to treat us fairly," she said, her voice echoing her father's strength, a quiet blade that cut through the gate's tension. Inside Linda's office, the security footage played on a monitor, synced to the airline's server. Claire's sneer, her dismissive words, "If you're not happy, file a complaint online," and the twins' unshakable resolve filled the screen. Linda's voice was cold, unyielding. "You violated policy and dignity, Claire. This isn't how we operate." She slid Claire's badge across the desk. "Your employment is terminated. Surrender your credentials." Claire's hands shook as she typed her login details, her career unraveling in seconds, ended by her own actions, captured by Ava's video and the gate's cameras. She was escorted out, her head bowed, the weight of her prejudice a burden she could no longer deflect. Back at the gate, Linda approached the twins, her voice sincere. "I'm deeply sorry. This shouldn't have happened. Your first-class seats are ready." Ava and Zoe boarded, their heads high, their braided beads clicking softly, the crowd parting with nods of respect. Mrs. Gray clapped, her voice warm. "Well done, girls. You stood your ground." Javier offered a small smile, his courage a quiet victory, his role as an ally solidified. Daniel's call had done more than secure seats. Horizon Tech pulled its contracts, grounding flights and triggering audits across the airline's operations. Ava's video, shared online, went viral, with hashtags like hashtag Justice for Ava and Zoe trending worldwide. The airline faced intense scrutiny, its reputation shaken not by a loud scandal, but by the quiet truth of one moment, amplified by the twins' courage. Months later, under the warm lights of a Los Angeles community center, Ava and Zoe stood at a podium, their braids adorned with new beads that glinted like their resolve. The airline had adopted a dignity-first initiative, co-designed with community leaders, inspired by the twins' stand. Empathy training, now a model for carriers nationwide, taught staff to see beyond appearances, to treat every passenger with respect. Ava, now a national debate champion, spoke, her voice steady and clear. "We didn't just fight for seats. We fought for a world where no one's judged by a glance." Zoe nodded, her eyes bright with purpose. "Dignity isn't a privilege, it's a right we all deserve." The crowd, students, activists, travelers, and airline staff, cheered, their applause a testament to the twins' impact. Daniel Harris, watching from the front row, smiled, his heart swelling with pride. He'd launched the Carter Fellowship at a local college, mentoring minority youth in tech and leadership, a legacy for his daughter's courage. Mrs. Gray, now a vocal advocate, organized airport forums where passengers and staff discussed equity, building bridges where bias once stood. Javier, promoted to gate supervisor, stood tall, his allyship a beacon for others. The twins' viral video had sparked a movement, with community centers hosting Speak Your Truth workshops, inspired by Ava and Zoe's example. A young girl in the audience, clutching a debate notebook, approached them after the event. "You made me believe I can speak up," she said, her eyes shining. Ava knelt, smiling. "Your voice is your power. Use it. This is more than a story, it's a call to action." Ava and Zoe proved that courage, even in youth, can rewrite the rules of a system that dismisses the unseen. Their stand reminds us that dignity is owed to everyone, no matter their age or appearance. If this moved you, share where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe to join a community that stands for justice, equity, and change. Together, we can keep their ripples spreading, lighting the way for a world where no one is denied their place.